Good evening. This is Elise, and you know what? Amazing thing just happened to me. I was actually laying down. I kind of sort of go to bed early, or at least wind down early. Let's say it that way. And in the times that I wind down early, you know, it may be in half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, but I'm not necessarily sleeping. Sometimes I do go to sleep, and other times I just don't. But I'm giving myself time to just break away from all of the stuff. And it's not that my mind is so cluttered with things that went on in the day. It's just that act or the act of winding down, you know, makes me experience and feel like I've pulled my way away from the chaos, pulled myself away from the chaos. Whether it was physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational, just pulled myself away from it and got me a strawberry to eat. In actuality, I think it's a good thing, at least for me, to do that. And I think it's a wonderful thing for others to consider. So maybe your thing may not be winding down to lay down, or maybe your thing might be just going to take a walk, or maybe just sitting out by the water, whether it be the FDR or the Hudson River or the East River. That's the Hudson River. I'm sorry, the Hudson River is the west side, and the East River is near the FDR is on the east side. So, or maybe you're in some other place and there's some water, there's a bay, there's a river, there's a waterfall. Water, to look at it, is peaceful. It can be peaceful and calming to the soul, to the spirit, the mind, the body, all of that. Even looking at mountains, for me, it's like I feel closer to God. But these are His great mountains. These are His great bodies of water. Come on. And then all the trees. These are His expressions of nature. So, in looking at all of these things, or walking through, or rowing through on a kayak, the Hudson River, or jet skiing, or just sitting by the dock of the bay, all of that can be equated to a winding down, a pulling away, or the pulling away of oneself from the chaos. For some people, the chaos might have been just 2 seconds or 1 millisecond prior to. For somebody else, it might have happened. That particular chaos, that stirring up, that crazy stuff might have happened a week ago, but you just never got over all of it. And you're just finding your way now to a place where you could just go, it is really something else. It is. You know, as I was laying there, I started to kind of scroll through my phone on Google, and came up with this page. And there was this gentleman who wrote this book. At least that's what it says. And I think I stopped at the page in the picture of the book because the name read David Hawkins. And I said, "What? David Hawkins? Do I know David Hawkins?" And when I saw his face, I said, "I don't know him, but I do know a David Hawkins." But what was so interesting to me is that the name of his book was Letting Go, like learning how to surrender. And I said, "Wait a minute, like ways to learn how to surrender, ways to learn how to surrender." I said, "But I know someone by the name of Kim Smallhorn who wrote a book a few years ago, and I believe it was entitled It's Time to Surrender." And the reason why I know that she wrote this book, she self published it, but not only that, we did a special kind of sort of book signing and tribute to her at the Concourse House in the Bronx, which was for women and their children. It was and is a shelter, beautiful shelter. Shout out to Manuela Schott and Miss Fernandez. And we were there working with these young women and their children for almost 2 years. So Kim came in, she's an author, of course. She came in with her book and everything, and all of them got books, and the event was just beautiful. And there was a big, like, kind of billboard posting and everything, and we stood in front. I think I took the picture. And some of the people, that came to, lend a hand or volunteer for that event at the Concourse House were from World Changers Church. We were not sponsored at all by World Changers Church. We had other sponsors like BBQs, Tony Cementelli, the Outback, the Olive Garden. Oh man, it was just fabulous. So she came in and she did a talk on learning how to surrender, or saying that it's time to surrender. Surrender, you know what I'm saying, in terms of letting go lots of the things, or a lot of those things that, you know, cause us to become stagnant. A lot of those things that happen to us that cause us to be twisted and frustrated, making us, sometimes unable to move forward. It's like the things that just wear us out. Just simply put, the things that just wear us out. And we do have choices. And when we say surrender, who are we surrendering to? Well, Kim's book, basically surrendering to God, giving him everything so that he can give us, me and you, everything back. But in the ways that he knows best promotes abundant life. Letting go of those things that we can't change. Letting go of those things that sometimes seemingly are a controlling factor. But then when we look at it, it may not necessarily be a controlling factor. It just might be a factor that we don't have to have anything to do with. So in that respect, it does not have control over us. We have control over it. Come on. Think about that for a moment. And there are things that we can control and things that we can't control. So apples to oranges, what do we do? And if there are things that we can control, we still have to be careful with how we do things. Because we don't want to do anything that's going to cause us to have this kind of mental instability, or this mental crashing or mental crushing. and then having to deal with it for the long haul because of something silly, something stupid, or because we felt like we couldn't control it. Sometimes we do get caught up in condemnation, which means sort of like the beating up of oneself. The beating up of oneself. Well, God, if I would have just did this, or if I would have been there, or, I don't know why I made that decision. Dang, I should not have done that. And all these different kinds of things. But can we change what was? Sometimes we can't change what was. So if we're learning how to surrender, or we're letting go of what we can't change, we've made a big step forward. We are making progress in the right direction. Now, when we talk about timing, because we can get caught up in timing. Well, I got a deadline. Oh, well, I got to. But really? So, if it means your mental stability, learning how to say no is really key when it comes to surrendering. So, let's go back for a moment. David Hawkins. I'm like, David Hawkins. Before I saw the face on the book, I thought about David Hawkins, the David Hawkins that I know, who has a magazine called A Change for Christ, or Change for Christ. And he's been out there a long time publishing a Christian newspaper. And he also had an online magazine, or a digital magazine. And I can say that I submitted like 6 articles. I was a contributor to the magazine. And I spoke once before about how I actually put them in, but they were edited in some kind of way, and they weren't the way that I sent them. But a publisher has the right to make some changes, and maybe it wasn't enough room. I really don't know, but I was not informed that my work was edited. And I wasn't twisted at all because I didn't know. I didn't know. And even when I finally got a chance to look at some of them online, I was like, what is this? I didn't write it that way. But you know what I did? I just surrendered. I just let it go. I let it go. Because I know for myself, and I knew for myself then, that the articles were mine, first of all. Some of them I had written from the 90s. But for this contribution, I tweaked some of them. And then I had also maybe one or two that came out. I think one that came out in a newsletter for TLC, the Lord's Church. And Kim, I think, was the one who was putting the newsletter together for TLC. So she knew that I wrote A Test of Faith. That was the name of it. So anyway, again, David Hawkins, the one that I know, who is, I think, married to Carice, and that's his partner in life, his wife, and then also his business partner. I'm telling you, together they had, and they probably still have. I haven't seen or heard from them in a long time. Well, David, pretty much. And they had and have a wonderful business going on. And then to talk about David's extended family. I knew them for many, 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 many years. So we had a tie on that level. But there was a time that we didn't know. But then it came into fruition that, yes, I know your other family for a long time. So anyway, this letting go, I let go. I didn't go after whatever. I said a couple of things, but it wasn't to hurt, harm, or anything like that. When we come with something, it's in the vein of teaching, it's in the vein of learning, it's in the vein of truth, it's in the vein of change. Change. Because change does not come about unless we can be truthful about some things. Sometimes let's consider that change. Probably change happens, you know, more better or more frequently, maybe if there were truth that comes about with regard to, the situation, the circumstance, the encounter, the experience, the environment. Any way you slice it. Any way that you slice it. So I'm looking here at this man who wrote this book, Letting Go, Learning How to Surrender. And I'm like, is that a coincidence? And maybe his is from a different standpoint than Kim's. Is that something that we should let go of? It's amazing. I'm going to throw something else at you just to consider for a moment. Consider. I am a writer. I haven't been writing a whole lot recently, but my writing is coming to you like this, live. And I'm still writing, but I'm just audible. Audible. You're hearing it rather than seeing it by the written pen or by a printed text. So imagine that I've written like so many poems and I've written articles. I have a book that I've been working on myself and I'm going to get it done soon. I started another book, some years ago, which I think I got like 13 chapters done and still intend to do some work on it. But at the moment, I'm not doing that. Lots of stuff going on, but I'm mainly focused on the audible book, the book that you can hear and the book that you can see. And maybe I'll take it in another direction in the days to come. But right now, writing all these different things and, you know, into solicitation letters, for sponsorships and just writing songs, writing music. Yeah, that's been my life, really. Have not spoken to a lot of people about it along the way because I just kind of kept things to myself. But imagine someone having access to my place and them making, folks aware that these things perhaps belong to somebody else. Like they really don't belong to me, but they belong to other people. So imagine that there are people that have blessed me, even with their written testimonies, like D. Clouden, D. Sessions, H. West, M. Roten, L. Kelsey Nicholson, D. Howell, and they trusted me with their testimonies. And then together with that, many artists or a few artists that I've dealt with in my lifetime, like Jimmy Sigler, Benny Jones, Barry Eastman, they blessed me with their music. So imagine that someone has access or had access to my stuff, the things that I was blessed with, and then the things that I wrote in particular, and turned around and said that all of these things absolutely belong to somebody else, or somebody else paid for this, or somebody else paid for that. And they're not hers. They belong to this entity or that entity or that development. And what about Kim's book? I had it in a little shopping bag. And they actually, well, one book was to go to Elder Felicia. I haven't seen her in a long time, but I had like the book in a bag, and I also had my book in a bag, so there were two of them. And when I left the other place, I brought them with me. I did. We'll leave it just right there. But her book was part of my collection of books that I was blessed with. Amazing. So some stuff blatantly gone, along with other music that I wrote, but someone else just did the charts for me, or did the lead sheet for me. But these are things that I wrote, that I created myself. And the other people, I commissioned them to just do the rest, like the chart and the whole nine, and then send them out to be copywritten. So they are copywritten, the music stuff, and even the stuff that was taken. And some of it, just invaluable. But it just goes to show you what can happen in life. When people either take it, or that you may give them access, never, ever, ever believing that they would do anything beyond feed your cat. Nothing. Or maybe get a glass of water in the kitchen. So when we talk about letting go, oh my God. I think about Stephanie Gretzinger. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. You got to hear that. What a song. What a worship and praise song. I'm letting go. And that's all the words to the song. Beautiful. So, do we have a right to let go? Things will frustrate us. Things will hurt us. Oh my God, especially when you find out that your stuff is just stuff that you worked hard for, stuff that you put together. And let's just look at it from another standpoint. What if someone actually believed that they did belong to someone else, but they're behind a locked door? So what right would anybody have to take what they really don't know belongs to you? So if someone is giving other information, because that's what people will do. First of all, how did they get it? And the stuff has been there for umpteen years. How did they get it? But if there's a person, who has this thing about just stealing or taking everything of value that belongs to someone else because they just don't want them to have, or they have to have a reason why they need to infiltrate a home or infiltrate those things that are of value to somebody else. Because look at that for a moment. They may not very well be of value to them, but of value to me. So if my music is taken away, if my writings are taken away, if my books are taken away, if my possessions are taken away, then it would cause hurt and pain, because they would know by somebody's talking to them that these are the things that are most dear to our hearts, because they were given. And then not only that, to go and tell somebody else that they never belonged to me is ludicrous. But then you would be surprised how many people would jump on the bandwagon with that. So you know what also comes to my mind with the taking away. I had, an Akai keyboard. I had a drum machine. I had the rack stand for my keyboards and all of that. I had a bunch of stuff. I didn't have them for a long time. And let's just say they were away, taken away. I had other things that were taken right in front of me, taken away. And there were things that was in the house that we all had. And some time or at some time and some day, a time and a day, these things just walked. So, puppets and wooden swords that came from Haiti, and pictures and different things, that meant something to all of us. China closet, just a bunch of stuff. And what the amazing thing about it is that you never ever know how these things are happening. And if people are in a situation where they can't express it, they can't, and maybe it is that they didn't even know. Maybe they were out. Maybe we were just all out at different times and stuff like, or maybe it was meant that someone else came along and said one thing about it or something about something, and we just let it go. Let it go, but not in the vein of letting it go for the long haul. And you see, we just looked at that from a couple of scenarios or a few scenarios, but you see, any way that you look at it or any way that you cut it, it's wrong. But when people want to afflict, some of them afflict hurt and pain, what would be the easiest thing for them to do? Take things that are your possession. Just walk with it. And for a child, when they have dolls, when they have, cookbooks, easy bake cookbooks and other little things. And then as you get older, you have a few more things and you have some heirlooms, you have these different things. People will enjoy themselves taking away what belongs to you. You know why? Not just because of the value, but because of the value that it has to them in terms of hurting you. Hurting you. And when you look at it, you could think that the person doesn't have, a great mindset. And when I say that, a great mindset, let me say it again, a great mindset, you would think it was somebody crazy or like, why would they do that? Or maybe it was a crackhead, or maybe, would you believe that it could be people who are very well educated book wise? But what it boils down to is that they still will engage in street life. You can say street life and it could mean many things. But for this reason, street life. Yo, what? And they don't have to act all like that, but just the fact that they would do it, or just the fact that they may have been given access, and you would never think that they would engage in that. But it's almost like, well, you do something to me, I'm going to do it to you. You do something to me, I'm going to do it to you. But you're not hearing them, you're not seeing them, you're just noticing that your stuff is not there. And then comes a time when you're like, okay, can I have my keys back? They just blatantly ignore. Don't say nothing. But the whole premise is that what you had doesn't belong to you, it belongs to others. Some would even say, these people, it belongs to the family. Really? But what would give them the right to blatantly just walk in and take it? And then when they're not there, giving someone else authority without even saying to you anything, but you just said, feed my cat. So not only did they feed themselves while they were there, they helped themselves to stuff that never was theirs. It never belonged to them, but yet gave the story of how what I had or what you had belonged to somebody else. And that was a justified reason for why they did it. Oh, wait a minute. By the way, did all those people on the album get paid? Oh, you did. Oh my God. Well, let us pay them. Let us pay them. And what right would they have to be a part of that? But that just continues to expand, create and expand the whole premise that what I have in totality, kind of, sort of, or in connection with the very things that are my livelihood, my creativity, my innovations, and those other things that I was blessed with by the very artists that I dealt with and the people that were in my life over a span of time, that they never belonged to me, but they're doing a good deed by taking it and giving it to someone else. Now, what if at that point, because they're taking it now and they're letting go of it. I'm getting it and I'm going to let go of it. So they would let go of those things. And what if they released them in another way to someone else to tell them that this is family and this is yours and this and that and work on this and whatever? Or maybe chopped up some of the stuff that was there in pieces and had somebody else rewrite this or rewrite that or change the name or something like that to make it into a new work that was a spin-off from the original work that belonged to the original author. Yeah, life storms are raging beyond my control. There's nothing in sight that I can physically hold. They shake me and rock me back and forth from side to side. Ah, oh. This nauseating, terrible ride. That's what happens, and that is really what life is sometimes. Not just in the sense of what we go through individually, but even corporately at some point, because we engage other people in our lives, or we can engage other people in our lives, at different periods of time. And when we engage them, it's like we're together on a point. Like, okay, could you do this for me? And they'll be like, oh, okay, fine. But you never would believe that they would go beyond what you asked them to do into what it is that they decide to do. And here's the thing, in letting go, what what could we do? What do we do to let go? We could either just go, because at first sight, we're not seeing it that way. We're thinking that they just did exactly what we asked them to do until we're faced with some other stuff. And then we can't definitively say it's them because it just looks like a break-in. Oh, they would never. Just, but then as time goes on, everything hidden under a rock comes to light at some point. And it may not come all at one time. It may come in peace. But when it comes, it will lend support and give that credibility effort. You know what I'm saying? Or just, solidify that credibility effort, in the fact that these people, and you asking me to let go? What am I letting go of? I got to let go of how it feels. I got to cry a little bit because I never thought that they would. I got to let it go because you know what? Although I've always done stuff, they may not have been privy to it. But now I know there's a reason why they weren't. I got to let go because I always wanted to say more, but they didn't want to hear anything. They weren't interested. But then when they gained access, they tore up what I had and took the things that were the very creativities, the very innovative, the very abilities and gifts and talents that I poured out on paper, that I sung on tape, that I wrote, that I painted, that I would draw, that I would do in graphics. And they had fun and called it a family thing. But now I understand, and we understand why it is that we did not give them access or privilege over time to many things. So sometimes things happen that we just can't fathom for a while. We just can't. But they happen for a reason. And once we begin to understand what the reason is, or at least impartiality, we can let go. And then even if we don't really know, because see, here's this thing. You don't know at the beginning because you trust it. So when you see it, you're like, oh, wow. You're not even thinking that it could be them because you have a heartstring for these people or your family. It could be family. And then down the road, you find out that, there's somebody else connected to them that proof positive says X, Y, and Z. And you're like, okay. So can you let go at that point? You kind of sort of can let go. But then again, it's still hurtful because you're like, well, what do I do next? Just wait. And then there's a time when a person's actions will just be manifested to the point where they don't even have to say a whole lot, just a few things. And voila, you got it. You got it. You get it. So the hurt and the pain may not dissipate, or maybe, not as heartfelt as it was in the beginning, or maybe it wasn't as heartfelt in the beginning, but at the point where you definitively have answers and reason to say that it's them, it's even more painful. And for me, I'm over there winding down, and some things come to my mind when I see this David Hawkins book, Letting Go, like learning how to surrender. And I'm like, Kim Smallhorn, it's time to surrender. I gotta get on here and talk about surrendering. Because right now I'm in tears, like, oh my God. Amazing. Sometimes we think that these things don't happen. Oh, there's lots of stuff that happens where people have written books and poems and plays and developed and created all kinds of apparatus and all kinds of things that help us to do things better, to live better, or to show ways that things can be addressed in our lives and get us to a place of a valued outcome. So if I read something and it gives me some instruction on how to do something that I didn't know how to do, now I know how to do it. If I go and I buy this apparatus that actually helps me to detect certain things in my house, there's my valued outcome. So, but who was the originator? Who was the author? Who was the designer? Who went to school? Or was it that the transcript and the papers from school were taken also? Or the degree? And used by somebody else too? Or was it that the application for KSAC, the whole package was taken and copies made of with somebody else's signature for me? But you think that you have the right to use it too? This stuff is real. Is this the artificial intelligence doing the thing it's supposed to do? So maybe there are various aspects of it too. And maybe it all boils down to just identity theft between me and you. So you done grabbed it and now you use it in the ways that best suit you for whatever the reason might be. But baby, today, come on with me, make a declaration. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. I surrender. I yield. Because my mental ease, mental stability is more important than any and everything that you do to me. Even through the hurt, the pain, the tears, even the dry times. Physically, these things can affect us. They can. And sometimes we just like, Lord, why? But you know what? Stephanie said, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. We got to make that declaration, regardless to what we see, regardless to the names that, ring out to us for whatever the reasons, regardless to what we find out that we know is absolutely true. And understand that there's a great God that sees us all. He sees our situation. He sees me and he sees you. So, will there come a time that the very ones that took away, steal, rob, kill, destroy, and do all that, when will they let go? When will they let go of that kind of activity? Sometimes it can be difficult. Some people are empty. They're not full. Because if they were full, their lives would be more predicated on other things than on bringing, a state of how do we say it? A state of taking away, or the feeling of what it's like to have something taken away on you. You follow what I'm saying? A state of, oh my God, this can't be. And I love this thing. Where is it? And then, wow, they bless me with these things. And I just hurt. We said that before. Hurt and pain. A state of being hurt and experiencing pain because of the things that you created and you developed, and things that were given to you, blessings from other people, taken away. It's painful, hurtful. And then some people, you have to give them an explanation, or at heart, you want to give them an explanation. Like, you didn't start to do whatever you were going to do with their stuff, but then, like, your stuff was kind of just, it's gone. What else could we say? It kind of makes you look, or me look, like we are not, responsible or accountable for things that people have given to us. It creates a whole lot of stuff. But I'm here to tell you today, let it go. When you know that you've done things with purity of heart, you don't have to worry about it, because God will work it out on the other end. And those ones who are doing what they do, even if they rock and roll and they're educators and they're people of professions and status and all of that kind of thing, it makes never mind. It makes no difference. Because at the end of the day, they just street for whatever the reason. But then you look at it and it's like, really? Really? So couldn't a simple knock at the door suffice? Or wouldn't a simple knock at the door suffice if you really needed it? But then if they employed other people, then the other people are on the bandwagon. So now they're all enjoying the scheme, the plot, the plan, everything that they put together to inflict hurt and pain. But today, try to engage, try to grab a hold to letting go, the surrender factor. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Stephanie Gressinger. This is Elise signing out.